Flying with kids teaches you patience in ways nothing else can. My son Noah was 7, small for his age, but fiercely independent. The kind of kid who insisted on carrying his own backpack, even when it dragged along the floor. This flight was supposed to be simple. 2 hours non-stop mid-morning. A quick hop to visit my parents. Nothing fancy. Nothing dramatic. At least, that's what I thought. We boarded early, Noah gripping his boarding pass like it was a passport to adulthood. He wore his favorite hoodie, blue with a faded rocket ship on the front, and clutched a stuffed fox head had since preschool. He didn't bring it everywhere anymore, but flights were different. Confined spaces made him nervous. "You good, buddy?" I asked as we reached our row. He nodded. "Window seat, right?" "Always." He slid into 12A, pressed his forehead to the glass, and smiled as the runway stretched out below us. I took the aisle seat, buckled in, and let myself relax for the first time that morning. That was when I noticed her. She stood in the aisle a few rows ahead, blocking traffic, one hand planted firmly on the seat back, like she owned the plane. Blonde hair pulled tight into a bun, oversized sunglasses still on her face indoors. She wore a crisp white jacket over a pastel top, and her voice carried. Sharp, confident, practiced. "No, that won't work," she said to a flight attendant. "My son needs to sit here." The flight attendant, calm and professional, glanced down at a boarding pass. "Ma'am, this seat is already assigned." "Well then reassign it," the woman snapped. I paid good money. People shifted uncomfortably. A man behind her cleared his throat. Boarding stalled. I felt Noah tense beside me. "She sounds mad," he whispered. "Just ignore it," I said softly. "ITL'll be fine." But the woman wasn't done. She turned, scanning the rows like she was shopping for furniture. Then her eyes landed on Noah. "That one," she said, pointing. "He's small. He can move." I blinked, not fully processing what I'd just heard. The flight attendant frowned. "Ma'am, you can't." "I'm talking to him," the woman interrupted, stepping closer. "Hey, kid." Noah shrank back instinctively, pressing into his seat. I leaned forward. "Excuse me, that's my son." She looked me up and down, dismissive. "Then you can tell him to move. My son gets anxious, and he needs this seat." "This is his assigned seat," I said, keeping my voice even. "We're not moving." Her lips tightened. "Don't be difficult." The flight attendant stepped in again. "Ma'am, please return to your seat." But instead of backing off, the woman did something I still replay in my head. She reached out. Her hand closed around Noah's forearm. Not hard, not violently, but firmly enough that it crossed a line, so clear it felt like the air changed. "Come on," she said. "It's just a few rows back." Noah gasped. I was on my feet instantly. "Don't touch my child." The aisle went silent. Her hand dropped, but her expression didn't change. "Relax. I wasn't hurting him." "You don't get to touch him at all," I said, my heart pounding. Noah's eyes were wide, wet. He clutched his fox tight against his chest. The flight attendant's voice sharpened. "Ma'am, step away. Now." The woman scoffed. "This is ridiculous. He's overreacting." Another flight attendant appeared. Then another. The murmurs started, low, uneasy. A man across the aisle shook his head. "What's wrong with people?" The woman crossed her arms. "I want to speak to the captain." That surprised me. Usually people threaten that as a bluff. But she meant it. "I feel unsafe," she announced loudly. "These people are being aggressive." I stared at her in disbelief. "You grabbed my kid." She ignored me. The lead flight attendant picked up the intercom phone mounted near the jump seat. Her voice was calm, but her jaw was set. "Captain, we have a passenger interference issue involving a minor." That sentence landed like a weight. Noah tugged on my sleeve. "Dad, are we in trouble?" "No," I said immediately, kneeling to his level. "You didn't do anything wrong." The woman rolled her eyes. This is such a waste of time. The captain's voice came over the intercom a minute later. Ladies and gentlemen, we are pausing boarding briefly. Please remain seated. A pause. Then, cabin crew, please secure the area. I felt a ripple of tension move through the plane. The woman's confidence finally flickered. Wait, what does that mean? The lead attendant looked at her steadily. It means you should have listened the first time. The captain emerged from the cockpit moments later. Tall, composed, silver at his temples. He surveyed the scene in seconds. The shaken child, the rigid mother, the silent passengers. What happened? He asked. The woman opened her mouth, but 3 people spoke at once before she could. She grabbed the kid. She tried to move him. That child is terrified. The captain held up a hand. He looked at Noah. Son, are you okay? Noah nodded, though his voice shook. She scared me. The captain's expression hardened. Not angry, but unmistakably serious. He turned to the woman. Ma'am, did you touch this child? Well, I was just... Did you touch him? He repeated. Yes, she snapped. But... That's enough, he said. The cabin was silent. For safety reasons, the captain continued, we cannot proceed with a passenger who interferes with another passenger, especially a minor. Her face went pale. You can't be serious. I am, he said. And because this occurred after door closure preparations began, we are returning to the gate. Gasps rippled through the plane. The woman exploded. This is outrageous. Over a misunderstanding? The captain didn't raise his voice. This flight does not move until every passenger is safe. Period. He looked at Noah again, then at me. I'm sorry this happened. I nodded, unable to speak. The engines powered down. The plane began to turn. And in that moment, the woman finally realized something important. This wasn't about her anymore. The plane didn't turn sharply. It didn't lurch or jerk. It moved slowly, deliberately, like it had made up its mind and nothing was going to change it. Outside Noah's window, the runway slid sideways, the terminal growing larger instead of smaller. The realization settled over the cabin in waves. This wasn't a delay, and it wasn't a warning. We were going back. A low murmur spread through the rows, the kind that happens when people aren't sure if they're allowed to talk yet, but need to release the tension somehow. Phones came out. Seatbelts clicked as people shifted. The woman, the one who'd started all of this, stood frozen in the aisle, her earlier confidence draining out of her face. This is unbelievable, she muttered. You can't punish everyone for one little thing. The captain hadn't left. He stood near the forward galley, arms folded loosely, watching her with a calm that was somehow more intimidating than anger. This is not a punishment, he said evenly. It's a safety procedure. She scoffed. Safety? He's fine. Look at him. I felt something snap in my chest. He's shaking, I said louder than I meant to. Because you grabbed him. Noah's hands were still wrapped tight around his stuffed fox, knuckles pale. He hadn't gone back to the window. He was staring straight ahead, breathing carefully like he was trying not to cry. A flight attendant knelt beside him. Hey, sweetheart, she said gently. You're safe. We've got you. Noah nodded, but he didn't speak. The woman rolled her eyes dramatically. Kids cry. That doesn't mean I committed a crime. The captain's voice dropped an octave. Ma'am, I need you to return to your seat immediately. I'm not sitting down until this is resolved, she said. I want your badge number. I want corporate. I want... Sit down, he said. The authority in his tone cut through the cabin like a blade. She hesitated, then huffed and stomped back toward her row, nearly knocking into a man who refused to move out of her way. As she sat, a few passengers clapped softly. Someone shushed them. The plane docked at the gate minutes later. The seatbelt sign stayed on. Ladies and gentlemen, the captain said over the intercom, thank you for your patience. We will be briefly delaying departure while we address a safety issue. Please remain seated. The word safety hung heavy. A uniformed airport security officer appeared at the front of the cabin, followed by a supervisor. They spoke quietly with the captain, nodding as he gestured subtly toward the woman's row. Her head snapped up. "What's this?" she demanded. "Why are they here?" The officer approached her calmly. "Ma'am, we need to ask you a few questions." "I didn't do anything wrong," she said immediately, loud enough for half the plane to hear. "They're lying." The officer glanced around. Several passengers reported witnessing you touch a minor without consent. Her mouth opened and closed. What? I was just helping him move. "No one asked for your help," I said. She spun toward me. "You should have controlled your child." That was it. The officer stepped between us. "Ma'am, you need to lower your voice. This is harassment." She snapped. "I know my rights." The supervisor spoke up, his tone measured. "Ma'am, under federal aviation regulations, interfering with another passenger, especially a child, is taken very seriously." Her bravado cracked. "You're exaggerating." The flight attendant who had first intervened stepped forward. "I personally witnessed you grab the child's arm after being instructed to stop." Another attendant nodded. "So did I." The woman's face flushed red. "This is a setup." The officer sighed. "Ma'am, please gather your belongings." Gasps rippled again. "You're removing me?" she shouted. "What about them?" The officer didn't argue. He simply waited. For a long moment, she sat frozen. Then she stood abruptly, yanking her purse from under the seat. "This airline will hear about this," she hissed as she stomped forward. As she passed our row, she leaned toward Noah. "Next time," she said sharply, "learn some manners." Before I could react, the captain stepped directly into her path. "That is enough," he said, his voice cold. "Do not speak to that child again." She recoiled like she'd hit a wall. The officers escorted her off the plane. The door closed behind them with a final hiss. Silence. Then applause, louder this time, spreading from the front to the back. Noah jumped slightly, startled. "It's okay," I murmured, pulling him close. "They're clapping because you were brave." "I didn't do anything," he whispered. "You told the truth," I said. "That matters." A few minutes later, the captain returned to the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your patience. The issue has been resolved. We will be resuming our flight shortly." Relieved chatter filled the cabin. A woman across the aisle leaned over. "Your son okay?" I nodded. "Yeah, he will be." She smiled gently at Noah. "You did great, buddy." He managed a small smile back. The plane began preparing for departure again. The tension eased, but something had shifted. People looked out for each other more. Voices were softer. "Kinda." As we taxied, Noah finally leaned back into his seat. "Dad?" he asked. "Yeah." Why was she so mean? I thought carefully. Some people think rules don't apply to them. "That's dumb," he said. I smiled faintly. "It is." The engines roared. The plane lifted. Noah pressed his forehead to the glass again, watching the ground fall away. For the first time since boarding, he relaxed. But somewhere deep in my gut, I knew this wasn't over. Because when you embarrass someone like that, someone used to getting their way, they don't forget. And neither did the captain. At cruising altitude, the cabin settled into a strange calm. The chaos from the gate felt distant now, like something that had happened in another lifetime instead of 40 minutes ago. Seatback screens flickered on. Drinks carts rolled. The soft hum of the engines became a steady backdrop. But for me, the calm was fragile. Noah sat quietly, his stuffed fox tucked under one arm, headphones resting loosely over his ears. He wasn't watching the movie. He was staring at the tray table, tracing the edge with his fingertip over and over. I watched him the way parents do when they know something's still wrong, but don't want to push too hard. A flight attendant stopped by our row, the same one who had knelt beside him earlier. "Herr Nim Tug Rid Maya." "How's he doing?" She asked softly. He's okay, I said. Just processing. She nodded, understanding. If he needs anything, snacks, water, just space, let me know. She handed Noah a small packet of cookies shaped like animals. For bravery, she said with a wink. He smiled. Really smiled this time. Thank you. As she moved on, the man in the aisle seat across from us leaned over. Late 40s, kind eyes, business casual. Handled that well, he said to me. Both of you. Thanks, I replied. Didn't exactly plan on any of that. He shook his head. Some people forget planes aren't playgrounds. Noah glanced up. She really thought she could move me. The man nodded. She thought she was important. Noah considered that. Was she? I smiled despite myself. Not more important than you. He absorbed that quietly. The rest of the cabin carried on. People chatting, laughing softly, clinking plastic cups. But every now and then, I caught someone glancing at Noah with a look that wasn't pity, but respect. Like they'd all silently agreed to keep an eye out. About an hour into the flight, the captain's voice came over the intercom again. Not the formal announcement voice this time, but something warmer. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Captain Reynolds. I just wanted to thank you for your patience earlier. Situations like that are never easy, but am proud of how our crew and passengers handled it. A pause. And to the young man in seat 12A, thank you for speaking up. You helped us keep everyone safe. Noah froze. His face went red. He's talking about me. The cabin erupted into gentle applause. Not loud, not overwhelming, just enough. Noah ducked his head, embarrassed, but I could see the pride breaking through the nerves. Afterward, he leaned toward me. I didn't know captains talk to kids. They talk to heroes, I said. He rolled his eyes, but he smiled. A little while later, Maya returned. Captain Reynolds wanted me to check on you two personally, she said. She crouched beside Noah again. You did the right thing earlier. I know that wasn't easy. Noah hesitated. Was she really bad? Maya chose her words carefully. She made a very serious mistake. What kind? One that grown-ups aren't allowed to make, she said gently, especially around kids. Noah nodded, satisfied with that answer. As Maya stood, she lowered her voice to me. Just so you know, security filed a full report. The airline did too. I frowned. What does that mean? It means she won't be flying with us again, Maya said. Probably not, with several airlines. I exhaled slowly. I hadn't realized how much tension I was still holding until that moment. Thank you, I said. All of you. She smiled. We don't mess around when it comes to children. Later, Noah dozed off, his head resting against my shoulder. I stared out the window, watching clouds slide past like slow-moving mountains. I replayed everything in my mind, the hand on his arm, the way head gasped, the captain stepping forward. I kept wondering what would have happened if I'd hesitated. If the flight attendants hadn't intervened, if people had stayed silent. A lot of ifs. The man across the aisle caught my eye again. You okay? He asked. Yeah, I said. Just thinking. He nodded. I saw something like that once. Different outcome. My stomach tightened. What happened? A parent didn't speak up. Crew didn't catch it in time. Kid got moved. Cried the whole flight. I clenched my jaw. That shouldn't happen. No, he agreed. And today it didn't. As the flight began its descent, Noah stirred. Dad. He murmured. Yeah, buddy? Am I in trouble? The question broke my heart. No, I said firmly. You're safe. You're good. You did exactly what you were supposed to do. He yawned. Okay. When the wheels touched down, applause broke out again, this time for the landing. But it felt like more than that. As we taxied to the gate, Maya stopped by one last time. Captain Reynolds wanted me to give you this, she said, handing Noah a small plastic pin shaped like a wing. For junior co-pilots, she said. Noah's eyes lit up. Really? Really? He clipped it onto his hoodie proudly. As we deplaned, the captain stood at the cockpit door. When he saw Noah, he knelt slightly. "Hey there," he said. "You okay now?" Noah nodded. "Yes, sir." The captain smiled. "Good. And remember, no one gets to put their hands on you without permission. Ever." Noah nodded again, more seriously this time. "I won't forget," he said. "Neither would I." But as we stepped into the jet bridge, I noticed something else. An airline supervisor standing with 2 security officers, holding paperwork. And I realized Chapter 4 wasn't going to be about the flight at all. It was going to be about consequences. The jet bridge smelled faintly of coffee and cleaning solution, that familiar airport mix that usually signals the end of a journey. For most passengers, the story ended there. Collect bags, find family, move on. For us, it didn't. As we stepped off the plane, the airline supervisor ID noticed earlier approached us. She was middle-aged, composed, wearing a navy blazer with an airline pin at the lapel. "Excuse me," she said gently. "Sir, may I have a moment?" I instinctively tightened my grip on Noah's hand. "Of course," I said. She knelt slightly, so she was eye level with Noah. "Hi, I'm Angela. I just wanted to check that you're okay." Noah nodded. "Yes, ma'am." She smiled. "Good. You were very brave today." She stood and turned back to me. "If you have a few minutes, we'd like to complete a formal statement. Nothing complicated, just to make sure everything is documented correctly." I hesitated. Part of me wanted to be done, to go home, to let the whole thing fade. But another part of me, stronger, knew this mattered. "Yes," I said. "We can do that." They escorted us to a quiet office near the gate. Through the glass walls, I could see passengers streaming past, oblivious, the world moving forward. Inside, a security officer sat with a tablet, recording details as I spoke. I described everything calmly. The woman's demand, her refusal to listen, the moment her hand closed around Noah's arm. Noah sat beside me, feet swinging slightly above the floor. "Can you tell us what happened?" Angela asked him gently. He took a breath. She told me to get up. I said no. Then she grabbed me. I felt scared. The officer nodded. "That was very clear. Thank you." Afterward, Angela explained what would happen next. The passenger was removed from the flight and banned from this airline pending investigation. She said, "Based on the captain's report and witness statements, that ban will likely be permanent." I blinked. "Permanent?" "Yes," she said simply. "Airlines share serious safety violations." Noah looked up. "She can't fly anymore?" Angela chose her words carefully. "She won't be able to fly with us. And possibly others." Noah thought about that. "That's a lot." "It is," Angela agreed. "But what she did was not okay." We were released shortly after. As we walked toward baggage claim, Noah squeezed my hand. "Did I get her in trouble?" he asked quietly. I stopped and knelt in front of him. "No, her choices did that. You told the truth." He nodded slowly. "Okay." At baggage claim, something unexpected happened. A woman from the flight approached us, the same one who'd smiled at Noah earlier. "I just wanted to say," she said softly, "I'm glad you spoke up. My sister was touched like that as a kid, and no one defended her." My throat tightened. "Thank you." She crouched briefly in front of Noah. "You helped more people than you know." Noah didn't respond right away. Then he said, "I hope she learns." The woman smiled sadly. "Me too." Weeks passed. Life returned to its routines. School, work, homework, bedtime stories. The fox remained tucked under Noah's arm at night for a while longer than before. I didn't push him to put it away. One afternoon, a letter arrived from the airline. Inside was a handwritten note from Captain Reynolds. "I've flown for 27 years. I've seen delays, storms, emergencies, and every kind of passenger. Very few moments remind me why this job matters. That day did. Thank you for trusting us. Thank your son for his courage." Enclosed was a small model airplane and a certificate labeled Junior Flight Safety Ambassador. Noah stared at it like it was treasure. "Can I keep this forever?" he asked. "Absolutely." A month later, something else arrived, a follow-up email from the airline's legal department. They wanted to let us know the woman had contested the ban. She said we misunderstood. Noah said, reading over my shoulder. I shook my head. They didn't. The appeal was denied. Not because of us. Because of the witnesses. The crew. The captain. Because sometimes accountability doesn't need revenge. It just needs truth. One night, months later, Noah asked a question I didn't expect. "Dad," he said, brushing his teeth, "what if it happens again?" I leaned against the doorway. "Then you do the same thing. Even if I'm scared, especially if you're scared." He nodded. "Okay." The next time we flew, Noah chose the window again. As the plane lifted into the sky, he pressed his forehead to the glass and smiled. "I like flying," he said. I looked at him. Stronger than he realized, braver than he knew. "So do I said. And somewhere above the clouds, a lesson lingered. No one, no matter how loud, how entitled, how sure they are of themselves, gets to take a child's seat, voice, or safety. Not on any flight. Not ever.